Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are here on our professional conversation. This is March 25th. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off. We are expecting some guests this afternoon or this evening. One should be our real estate guy, and the other one should be our loan officer. So we'll go ahead and kick it off. But in the meantime, this is just a professional communication conversation. It's an opportunity to kind of share different things from across the states. So we have Victor. Are you in Georgia now or Florida? Well, we have Robert Obiji, who is in Louisiana. We have John Basile, who's in California, San Francisco. We have Taz, who is in LA. And then myself, I am in Albuquerque, Mexico. So typically we have a wide range of professionals on this call. So this week or this month, we were going to talk about just kind of general leadership. And Robert Obiji is a United States Marine. We were going to kind of have him chat a little bit about leadership techniques.
That was a great segue. That was a great segue.
All right, Obiji, let's hear it.
Oh, that way. Okay, so just quick I took some notes. Actually, it's funny because I've been playing this in my head for like a week or so, just thinking like, what should I talk about? Because, me and your time, in the Marine Corps, we've learned a lot, and then also just guidance. Like I talked to Sergeant Major Goodyear, and I had a good talk with him. And as I matured in the military, I've learned a lot about myself, and I've learned a lot, my weaknesses and strengths, and how to, get better. And then on top of that, like just being realistic with, expectations. So one thing I'm really a big proponent of is knowing your boss's intent and your boss's higher intent, what they want. And that's something that's like big. If you think about and I never did it with my boss. What is expectations, and do I monitor those expectations? Am I hitting the mark? I'm just thinking am I doing something that's realistic, and that? Hey, am I doing the job you want me to do? And then you kind of align yourself as well with that boss. So I'm saying, remember the colonel. I want to know what he wants. So whatever your section or your business, you want to be kind of aligned with them. You know what I'm saying? And then another thing to go with that is let's say you have employees. Something that I've learned too. It's something that I have a problem with, but there's a thing called time management. We have to all have to do the time, but there's a thing called task management. I say task management. It's knowing how many tasks you have and how many that you can finish within that given time. Some of them you say, I can do that, and you end up having too many tasks, and sometimes you can't even finish the tasks. You can't even give a good quality product after it's due because you don't have time for it. Or you're tasking someone out, you give them a task and you don't really verify that task accurately, and then once it gets pushed out, you end up start seeing discrepancies. I've seen that a lot of people that work for me, and I'm like, hey, I gave this to you. You've done this before. How did you make a mistake on this? And oh, sir, I didn't see that. I'm like, well, crap. That's my fault, So time management, but to reflect on that as task management, making sure you properly task your subordinates, and then you're not overloading them. Another thing too is time is an asset. Especially in the business sector, like you studying business, they always try to find the optimal amount for certain things. Hey, the optimal amount for this specific project is $34,987, whatever it is, some arbitrary number. The thing is, the effort to take that time to find the amount. But by the time you find an answer, the equation might have just changed. So then you have to readjust. So sometimes people will spend hours on Excel files, spend hours, maybe days, and after you're done with that product, the product, the solution you're trying to find has now changed, has now shifted. So like understanding that like time is an asset and trying to find the optimal or sufficient quantity might not be realistic. So you just gotta like, okay, within my experience and like my wheelhouse and who I work with, what answer is the best answer I can find given the time that I have. And I send that answer out, and you know, once it's there, you can just adjust. But if you're trying to find this perfect answer, you might not. By the time you find that perfect answer, it just changes.
And that's a good topic. So, can you explain what having a 80% solution versus 100% solution, and how the 80% solution allows you to achieve more versus 100% solution in some scenarios?
Yeah. So like, I mean, taking like right now I'm on EWS. It's Expeditionary Warfare School. So, for example, like we're saying, I have to, like, for example, I did a plan today. It was an air assault and the landing. We had to determine who to take, what personnel we're going to land in certain landing zones, and then, you know, so I'm trying to take my time to find the perfect solution. But at a certain point, I'm like, you know what? I just gotta put people on planes, send them there, and then just adjust. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't be so detailed where it's like, oh, I'm taking, and this plane, I'm taking like a rocket launcher, a javelin, you know. Oh, I'm taking 3 javelins. I'm gonna take 150 rounds per person, let's say ammunition. You can't get to the minutia, because at that point you're gonna spend too much time on every little detail, and then, you know, by the time you need to submit that plan, it's too late, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, it's you know, even like, for example, on the assignment, we took a tow system. It's a rocket launcher, and it's too heavy for the plan that we had. But you know, we make adjustments. Or for example, like when you do I'll do a real world event, like TMR, remember, like a transportation movement request, or a GTR, taking things from like point A to point B. You want to provide a capability somewhere, let's say in Yuma. You kind of have an idea of what you're going to do, but you don't know exactly, you know, how it's going to fit. Like, you might want to take like 2 radar systems or 1 radar system, and then you go take the radar system there, and it breaks down, you know? And then you take, okay, well, I have a secondary one, but that one breaks down, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Then really it's not like you taking radar, it's just the fact that like the radar system isn't that good, you know what I'm saying?
So let me, this is a good kind of segue. We're gonna come back to OBG. I want to transition to Victor. Victor, you on the line?
Yep.
So Victor, he built 1000, which you can kind of see behind him. Victor's a talented soccer player, and he now coaches and mentors and sponsors young athletes, young soccer athletes, and to hopefully get them to the next level. So Victor, you mind sharing a little bit about your kind of background?
Okay. Yeah, soccer's always been my passion, so I've been doing it since I was like maybe 4. And I never really put myself in a position to try to become a pro, even though I had the opportunities. I just didn't have the right mentality. And I think 2 or 3 years ago was when I pretty much started all this. You know, I had a dream, I had a vision, and the reason why I actually started this was because of my why. My why was the one thing I ever regret in life was not to become pro. You know, that was my passion. And I made all the excuses of why I couldn't go pro, you know, and I didn't want anybody to have that regret ever in their life. And so that's kind of like where the mentality of giving everything you have, no matter what, regardless whether you can make it or not, the fact that you're able to do the best that you can. It's better to live knowing that you've done the best that you can to try to make something than to live with regret, you know? And so that's really how it started. And that's when I started my soccer agency, started representing players, getting them into trials. But I started to see a lot of more problems that I've noticed whenever I would talk to players, which it seems like they're not that educated, that knowledgeable when it comes to, like, not just on the pitch, but outside the pitch. And I think that's where most players lack. And that's where I started to get my consulting side and started to do my agency differently and then my consulting differently. So my agency would be specifically just on that player that I represent. I'm a very personal guy, so that's the person that I will work with all the time. So there's a reason why I only have 2 players. I'm very careful with who I pick out because I want them to also represent my brand 1,000%. And then my consulting side is I want to try to help as many as I can without putting too much of my time, but in a way that I can still challenge them and help them and understand more about the things, not just on the pitch, but outside the pitch, and how to present themselves, how to create a CV, highlight videos, how to network. That's one of the biggest things, and how to reach the right people.
So let me ask you, what are some of the marketing techniques you're using to kind of build your agency and then your consulting side?
The best way to do it is really just networking with people, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, anything. I use all outlets that I can, and like literally actually connect, not just follow, but reply, comment, message them, let them know that you're interested in them. Because in the end, it's not about me, it's about them, So if I can be, if I can benefit them in some way, I'm going to do the best I can to show them that I can be a valuable asset to them. And so that's really how I started networking. I would just go and like on Instagram, just follow people and just, comment on whether it was a post or a story, something like that. And then I'll introduce myself a little bit later on. That's when I started to notice they started following me too. And so that's how I started building my network. So I actually just met with somebody today. His name is Tony. So he does more of the college side. I don't do much of the college side. I believe those are two different animals. But I think it was good for me because, like I said, building a network is what's gonna make your network, if that makes sense. And so, if I know that if I have players that'd rather go to college than to try to go pro for the development stage, then I'll send them to that person. It's all about networking. So.
Fair enough. No,
I
that's
had a
good.
question.
Yeah.
So when you started, were you always in this field of like consulting or were you doing something completely different, and what drove you to do this? And just wanted to know a little bit about that.
Great question. So I've been in sales the last 7 years, but before that, I've always done some type of labor work. So I've been heavy in construction growing up because my dad had his own construction business. And then I started off at Burger King, and from there, I went to like warehouse and stuff like that. So I would say in my early 20s, that's pretty much what I did. And then I got into sales maybe when I was around 24-ish. I'm 31 right now. So around 24 was when I first started doing sales. I hated sales, but I started to understand that there's a cap with that. And so I just did sales for a good 6-7 years. And then, it was like something in me. I was like, I feel like I'm not doing anything, I mean, there was a point even 2 years ago, it was 2018. I literally traveled to 9 different countries, and then that was like an enlightenment, I was like, I can't believe I literally saved 7 months worth of my, of whatever I could besides bills on traveling, and I learned a lot about myself, I went to India, I went to China, I went to France, I went to so many places I never thought I could go. And then I started to realize there's literally nothing that we can't do. And then there was an aching like in my heart, and I was like, you know what? Like, I love soccer so much. I'm like, why have I not done something with it, And I don't want nobody to have some type of regret like I had. And so that's how it really started. And so I have it color coded. So my thing is, if you give 1,000%, you'll be in the top 1%. So that's how I had it separately. It wasn't like this originally, but the more I started to believe in what I represent, the more I started to be able to help people actually. So yeah, definitely different. I didn't expect it to be like this, but that's how.
Hey, Victor, thank you. We'll circle back around, but Taz, unless you have anything else.
I wanted to ask one more question.
Yeah. Go for it.
So because this is completely new field for you, how were you able to like start? What resources you used, or is there something that you used, or someone's help, or how did you get to start this completely? I mean, it's your passion, so of course it's going to be great, but.
So I think it was easy for me because I understand the game and understanding transfers and things like that. That side, the agency side and consulting side, it was actually kind of easy. But what I did when I first started was I started to invest in courses. So I took like an agency course, scouting courses. So just to kind of perfect what I already kind of know, you know. The moment I believe that I stop learning, that I know everything, is when I really stop learning. So I don't ever want to get to that place. And so that's what I did. The very first 6 months was just straight up learning all about the industry. Still have booklets right now from FIFA regulations, requirements, stuff like that. So I even have a book I have right here from an agent, really top agent. I read that book all the time just so I can always refresh my memory. So that's how it started. So
that's 1,000% right there. That's good stuff.
Yep.
Hey, all right, right on. So next we'll transition to John Basile. John is currently in San Francisco. So John, why don't you go ahead and give a little bit of background about yourself, if you don't mind.
John,
First time
you're
caller,
muted.
long time listener here. First time caller, long time listener. Still trying to figure it out. In case you haven't realized it yet, I helped raise Giuliano. I'm a financial services professional. I've been doing this for just about 3 years now, and I was in retail sales most of my life. I mean, you're talking about going back and being good at sales. I remember being in high school and we were poor and we got lunch tickets. I'd sell my lunch tickets because I want to go do something else outside that cost money. So I'd sell my lunch tickets and, buy something else. So I started selling stuff at a very, very young age and, going through retail and retail management and, always kind of coming across like, these sales positions where it's like, hey, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. In a sense where it's like, not in a positive way, not like with emotion or bringing something like that, but like, what am I leaving out to get the sale? Like, it was a very negative experience a lot of times in retail. And I just always said to myself, like, hey, what can I sell? What can I be involved with where I really feel like I'm helping people when, I'm going through a sales process? And Giuliano introduced me to an individual, and we got involved with life insurance and annuities and financial services, and that was a great stepping stone for me. And going into 2021, I was taking advantage of the downtime and saying, hey, trying to reevaluate where I'm at, where I wanted to be. What companies do I want to look at that are going to help me grow personally, going to help me develop educationally, professionally. And I ended up landing with New York Life, which is the #1 mutual company in the country. So I literally went from feeling like the bottom to the #1 company at the top. And it's been a great transition so far. A lot to learn. Working on my securities licenses right now. Hopefully we're good there in a couple of months. It's been quite an experience. We do all sorts of financial help. And one thing I think OBG brought up was time being an asset. And, it's never truer in the business that we're in. Like, when do you start saving? When do you start life insurance? How long do we wait? What kind of effect? What effects does that have on my long-term goals? And it's tough. It's a tough industry to be in because a lot of people don't like to talk about it. They don't like to think about it. They don't want to think about retirement, and they don't want to think about a need for life insurance. But even just thinking about this past year and this pandemic and how many souls aren't with us anymore and how many people are in such rough shape, like such a little thing like life insurance, what a big impact that could have had on someone's life for such a small cost, or if we had planned better, had that conversation early on, how much it's never going to be easy, but how much smoother or an easier transition it would have been to kind of help move on instead of being stuck in that rut. I love what I do. I love helping people, and if I can help, I will, is my motto.
Right on. Thank you, Johnny. So next I want to introduce Taz. Taz is a very talented young lady. She I wanted to say network engineer, but web design. She does operational management. She actually handles the operational management for myPrepPlus. Without further ado, Taz.
Hi. Am I supposed to speak on a topic today?
No,
or should I?
Whatever you'd like to communicate about.
Right. So I think I want to talk about how everybody should have a website for their own personal self. For example, if you go tazshake.com, you'll get me. You'll get to me. It's very important for everybody to have their own personal website. The reason being is, social media is great. You post a lot of content on social media, but you don't know when Facebook will change their some privacy setting or something, and then you can't do, or they ban you because you posted something. YouTube, the same thing, they demonetize you or stuff like that. So it's always a good idea to have your own space where you could post your content and own everything that you have on there. So no matter what happens to other platforms, you can always connect all your social media to your personal website. I would say everybody here should have their own first name, last name.com, at least to begin with. That is like when you meet somebody on your business card, you put your website and then this is me, this is what I'm about. You could connect, you could tell them what you do on your personal time. You could talk about what you're doing in your professional life or any other things, or they know where to contact you. And it's just I'm a big proponent of everybody having a personal name, first name, last name, at least to begin with, because it just puts a great impression in front of the person that you're meeting with, and like, oh, this person means business. So that's one thing. And then of course, if you have a business, I hope everybody else knows here how important it is to have a business website. I hope, Victor, you have a business website already, because
that's the very first thing I had to do.
Yeah, because without that, that's the face. And you also, just not having a business website is just not enough. You have to make sure that it's searchable, and your name or your brand name is so unique that you're able to you come out of the crowd and people are able to recognize you from all of the other brand names. It can't be generic. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. And if you have any questions or something, I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I joining New York Life. I actually have an appointment coming up in 2 weeks where I have to sit down with their marketing agent, and they have to go through all of my social media. So I gotta try an advanced run through there and delete almost half of the old content on there.
All of it.
Yes. You start scrolling back and you're like, oh, did I say that? Did I put that on there? So yeah.
Thank you, Taz. Yeah, it's very important to have that image. Now, another thing that you got to think about, we got to think about is a crowded market. So not just being able to have a website anymore, is how do you get your website in front of someone? How do you get your information, your business information, or your professional information in front of your target audiences? Now, everyone thinks Facebook, Google, Yelp, so on and so forth. But imagine how many people are actually doing the same thing you're trying to do, right? So learning how to navigate those waters, that's why we got Taz on board, because she's an expert in that field. Anyways, one thing I wanted to quickly chat about, it doesn't look like we're going to have our loan officer and our real estate guy or tax guy on tonight, so I'll figure that out for next month. One thing I wanted to talk about was the professional community and what we're trying to establish here. It's an opportunity to share common struggles that we have overcome, the opportunity to explain how you formulate your goal sets and how you actually achieve them in a non-competitive, open forum where you feel comfortable to do so. And again, I just want to reiterate, this is a professional community. So there are some months where we have 15, 20 people online, and hopefully that'll grow. Another thing I wanted to chat about was that we just have to be thankful for what we have and the opportunities that we have, because not a lot of people get to experience what we do. And when I say that, I mean that sincerely, because we all have technology in front of us, and there's a lot of people included in this country who don't have that opportunity. Another thing that we're about is supporting small businesses, and I truly, sincerely mean that. When you go out, at least my wife and I do our best to support small businesses. Now, when I say that, it's we find the local restaurant, we find the local thrift store, or whatever it may be, or the local barber shop, and really make sure that they're taken care of, because they're the ones that are struggling, and they're the ones that actually keep our economy afloat. I actually wanted to kind of open up the floor. OBG, we kind of left off on your leadership conversation, and if we could just kind of maybe tie some of your leadership learnings from EWS, but more in a general setting, so that it can be communicated across the different disciplines.
So like for leadership stuff, for me, I was gonna tie in. There's a lot of good tie-ins with this stuff, but for me, it's being empathetic. Being empathetic is a big one. Like understanding your workers and like knowing their capabilities. That's a big one. Like, because I was thinking about it, even for that task management point, something that you do might take a different amount of time for someone else.
Mm.
And that's the thing, like, you're not there to do everyone's job. Like, you're not there, like, to criticize everyone's little job. Like, sometimes, like, when someone's lazy, yeah, you can point it out. But let's say, hey, you know what, this guy, it's his first time doing something. It takes him, it takes me 3 hours, but I'm going to give him 5 hours or 6 hours. You know what I'm saying? Because it's his first time doing it. You know what I'm saying? And you do that because of what's realistic. Because it took me 5-6 hours to do it the first time I did, you know? That's a big one. Knowing your workers' capabilities, being empathetic about it. Another thing too, with leadership, it's a big one for me. It's huge. Victor was saying, read as much as possible. Read. You gotta. I'm telling you right now, like, there's not. Like, I wish there was more time to read. Because the moment you stop reading and you stop, like, you just go stagnant. You don't know how many books I try, like, just to read. Like, there's things that even I wish there's certain things I wish I did read back in the past to set me up for success. But hey, you noted, and okay, well, now I got to read that in the future. It's not just like, I'm not talking about just stuff in your lane, like stuff like, hey, I do like taxes, or I do sales. I'm just reading sales. Read something like that builds creativity. Like, the thing is creativity is a huge thing in like entrepreneurship or business. A lot of times you get that creativity. It could be one little spark you get something out of, you know. But just reading as much as possible is great. And then another thing too is it's just big. I don't know. One thing that scares me about the civilian sector, because there's always people on their high horse, or like my wife. What do you call it? When you nepotism. When someone gets hired, they get a management position because they know the person. And that happens. Nepotism is huge in the civilian sector, even though you don't know it. Generally, it's in the military too, but most times you have to work for what you get. You know what I'm saying? In the civilian sector, if you know the CEO, you get a good job right off the bat. You know what I'm saying? One thing to take into this, regardless of all this stuff, is if you do find someone that's good, a good mentor, learning to like embrace or taking critiques. Take critiques in and learn from that. Like, hey, when someone tells you something, take it in. Don't be stubborn about it, and learn from it.
Yeah.
Pretty much, a simple terms, like, embrace the wrong. Embrace the wrong. Like, embrace the wrong that someone has put on you, and just take it and learn from it. Don't get mad at it, because sometimes I get like, oh man, I'm butthurt, man. Like, for me, I need to know more as a operations, or just as an officer, not just in logistics, but I need to know a lot everywhere else. I need to know stuff in operations, the MAGTAP, or it's the way that we were built up, like something like division, different agencies. That's what I got critiqued this week. Now my goal is to really learn and put myself closer in areas that that I'm not comfortable with. So embrace the wrong, read as much as possible, and know the capabilities of your coworkers, the people that work for. And I swear, you do that, and you just take the humble approach, you'll do fine.
Right on. Yeah. Thanks.
I had a question, BG. So when you mentioned mentor, is there how would you find a mentor? That if you were not able to find somebody, like if it's difficult for somebody to find a mentor, what strategies or what suggestions do you have for them to find a mentor?
Well, a lot of times it could be a teacher. Let's say you take a class and hey, this teacher's pretty cool. Let me keep in contact with this person. Or it could be like someone from another industry. Let's say it's a manager, and you're like, hey, this person seems like they're pretty knowledgeable in this area, and you just converse. You just converse and you see where they're at. And I'm not saying it has to be like something that's older, but it just can be something that you like learn off of. And by doing that, like you just this is what area they work in. This is what I'm learning from them, from their perspective. I'm gonna take that. You know what I'm saying? So, be it a teacher, someone you met at a conference. It could be another, like, let's say you work in the operations sector, but there's someone in the operations department that's really like knows a lot about the industry. You get to know them, and then they might have some good stuff, good insight on how the company is going forward, and you just learn from them. You know what I'm saying? Or they're just a good, humble person. They have good, they have good qualities. Generally, you know a good person by their qualities, by their actions. If they say, "Oh, you do like what I do," so I do, and then if they don't do that one day, or they say something wrong, then that's probably someone you should probably avoid, But usually it's about being like observant, and then also considering, okay, what am I looking for in a mentor? Like, what am I looking for? Like, am I looking for job growth? Am I looking for something for income? And a mentor doesn't have to be someone you directly talk to. You don't have to talk to them directly. It could be a mentor. Could be something like a podcast. A podcast I listen to. It's called Art of Manliness on Spotify. Brett McKay is the guy. I listen to some of his episodes. I don't go full throttle, but like I'll listen to all of them. And he has some good stuff to talk about. He has some general good stuff. He has a book. A guy that comes in has a book, and he analyzes the book and he talks about like certain stuff that he liked and didn't like, or just stuff. It could be about leadership. It could be about creativity. It could be about exercise, sleep. It could be whatever. But generally, it's a pretty good podcast. So I don't talk to the guy directly, but I get to hear what he says. So over the years, it's kind of helped mentor me indirectly. And then also be books. It could be books. It could be a writer. I like Brandon Sanderson. He's a fiction writer. There's a lot of good stuff that he talks about in his books, and it's like, wow, that's really interesting. That's like one of the things that I got out of it was you have a plan, but if one person screws up in that plan, the whole plan goes to crap. So you have an entire plan, but all it takes is one person to screw it up for you, and then the plan goes away. So stuff like that. Or like he was talking about leadership, where it's like if there's enough dissonance, if there's enough people that don't agree with your decision, it's not your subordinates. It's your decision that you made. It's the wrong decision you made, really. So there's some mentorship from that from a writer that I get to read his book. So be it indirectly from a podcast or a writer or someone you've met, but that's how you can find a mentor.
Taz, any additional questions? No, this is fantastic. We're about 7 minutes out from the top of the hour. We do our best to keep this 45 minutes streamlined. This has been a fantastic conversation. The other thing that I kind of want to pinpoint is keep it simple, stupid.
KISS method. Love it.
So I have found myself in multiple positions where my analytical side maybe makes it a little bit too difficult to communicate my idea across the platform, right? Not just with anything. What I've noticed, just studying some of the top performers, especially in a sales position, and believe it or not, we're all in a sales position because we're constantly selling ourselves in whatever professional setting that we're in. And one thing that I've noticed is I've never actually practiced an elevator pitch because I don't want to pretend like I have, but being able to communicate your attributes in a split second amongst a community that you look in the mirror and you're like, I shouldn't be in this community, but somehow I am. I need to be able to communicate fast, because these people, they can absorb information 1,000 miles a second. And guess what? you have to somehow trigger something in their brain that allows them to remember you, so that way when you cross paths again, they are now highlighting you for a position or an opportunity or a connection. So keep it simple, stupid. Yes, there may be an elaborate plan behind the scenes, and OBG, we can attest to that, I know for sure. But a lot of times you're dealing with sometimes 17-year-olds, most of the time 18, 20-year-olds who have no clue. Not a clue. And guess what? They're the ones that are taking the plan and they're the ones that are going to execute it. So realistically, if that person cannot execute your plan, it's a failed plan. Period. Just because you can do it behind closed doors and no one's looking and you're catching all your mistakes, as soon as you hand it off, can the next person do it? I don't care how smart they are. Can they do it? Right? I think, Victor, you got something cool too, because you're amongst an elite bunch of athletes every single day, and in order for them to be good, they need to train, they need to be disciplined. There's a mindset, they have to, otherwise they don't get to the next level, whether it be a collegiate opportunity or it be a no-kidding professional opportunity. So
I actually like the thing that you said about the elevator pitch. For the longest time I didn't understand what that was, but I'm pretty sure everybody else knows that's been in sales a long time. It can change a relationship completely with somebody. First impression is one of the biggest things, especially, I get a lot of messages. So whether it's on a phone call or in person or just from a message or email, like that dictates how you represent yourself and who you are, So if I get a player that just, says their name like, hey, my name is this and that, I need you to help me out. Can you give me a trial? And then just send me like a written down CV and like 5 videos of like him scoring, like all separately. To me, that seems like very unprofessional. To me, you're not telling me that you're not representing yourself as a professional. You want to wait till you become a pro to try to act like a pro, but it goes way before that, So like, for example, I actually had somebody message me today. He wants to go to college, but he gave me perfect. Everything was perfect. He introduced himself. He likes what I do. He sent me over his CV and his highlight videos. That looks I've never seen a highlight video so perfect. That's information, everything. He kept it so simple, yet it showed that he knew that my time is valuable, as an agent. So with that, I immediately respond to him, because anybody that stands out of hundreds of players, I'm gonna give you my attention, And so if we can do that in our businesses, then we can only go up from there, really. So
it's a perfect point. Yeah,
I think just sorry to just jump in here, but your elevator pitch should be constantly evolving too, right? Because times change, what you're doing is changing. And then one piece of advice I can give on an elevator pitch is wrap it up with a question. Have you ever thought about this? Have you ever tried that? What was your experience with this? Like, try to wrap it up with not just, here I am. What about you? You know what I mean? Like, let's engage in a conversation. That's all.
No, it's perfect. And right on the mark. We got about 2 minutes left. 1 minute left. Again, this is myPrepPlus Professional Conversation. We do hold this monthly. This video or this session is recorded. and we'll be posting it on our company YouTube page and distributing it accordingly. Each month, hey, just bring something to the table. What I mean by that is, bring your A game every single time, because guess what? You only get one opportunity, and this is how we build it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that said, Robert OBG, congratulations on your new move. Congratulations on your new house. And hey, keep pushing forward, man. You have a lot of opportunity. So if you decide to stick around for a long time, I think the gun club's going to keep you. So keep pushing.
Yeah, a lesson learned. Hey, just take something. If you get another job in like another city, just look at the infrastructure in the city and like go see the city before you take the job, because I know.
Experience.
New Orleans, it sounds cool, like in concept Mardi Gras. But the roads here are horrible, and the crime.
A lot of water there, man. There's a lot of water.
No, there's a lot of potholes. There's a lot of
That's
I'm actually going to go ahead and just end the recording, but we can keep the conversation going.
yeah, where there's water, there's potholes, man. That's how it goes.
Oh my goodness. OVG.
Yeah,
Hey,